Hi, I'm Eric Schulz, and welcome to the greatest marketing class on earth. Now, I just made you a very bold promise, the greatest marketing class on earth. Now, that in return has created an expectation in your mind. This better be good. When promise, expectation, and the customer experience all align at the same point, that's when you have a strong brand. And that's what we're here to talk about today. To call this a marketing class is wrong, because it's really about branding. Because branding is the message that you define to tell the consumer about your product or service. This is how my product or service can fit into your life in a way that's going to make your life better. And once we have that message defined, then we have the opportunity to do the marketing, which is the execution elements of how we're going to take that message to market. Let me give you a quick example. What about Pete Davidson? Pete Davidson, he's not the most handsome man on earth, yet he's dating some of the most beautiful women. How does that happen? Well, it's because of branding. He's come up with a brand. I'm confident, I'm funny, and I'm a great lover. And that's the message that he continually tells as he goes through life. And so he approaches these women and he says, I'm confident, I'm funny, and I'm a great lover. And he's got other people telling the same thing. That's what we call PR. And so by putting all of those messages together, he's being very successful because he's being right on target with everything that he says. That's what we're going to learn how to do. We're going to learn how to do branding really well, because branding comes before the marketing. When we have a brand strategy, that leads us to how we're going to execute, and that leads to success. So, what's the objective of branding? Well, it's pretty simple. It's about understanding why people buy your products or services. Because if we don't understand how and why they buy, we have no chance of understanding how it's going to fit in their life in a way that makes their life better. So we have to understand first why they're doing what they're doing. What are the things that are important to them? What are the things that are not important to them? You have to be a little bit of a psychologist to be a good marketer. You have to have this innate skill of looking at things and trying to figure them out. Looking at real life. It's not looking at research, it's watching what's going on in real life. So as we look at consumers, one of the things you're going to find that's very interesting is there's 3 different ways that they make purchase decisions. The first is what we call cognitive. In cognitive purchase decisions, we look at something, we read the reviews, we might go and look at YouTube videos. We spend a lot of time, effort, and mental energy trying to figure out whether or not we want to buy this thing. And it's usually in product categories where we don't have a lot of experience, or where you buy it once, and once you buy it, you're stuck with it for a while. So, we don't like to make cognitive decisions. We try to push those off as much as possible. The second way that we make purchase decisions, responsive purchase. In responsive purchase, we are responding to messages that someone has shared with us. It might be a friend who's told you about a product. It might be a referral from something that you read on the internet, or a review that you might have seen. It could be an ad that the company has shown you. You've somehow been exposed to this product or service, and you're now buying it in response to having seen it. And that's the role of marketing, to try to figure out how do we get this product in front of you so you can see how it will fit into your life in a way that makes your life better. The third way that we make purchase decisions is called reflexive. And in reflexive purchase, it's when we just buy things and we don't even think about it. And that's ultimately what we try to get to in everything that we do. We want the consumer to be so in love with us and to trust us, that's a really important word, to trust us so that they'll just buy us because they know our brand, they know our products and services, and they know that they're going to get a great experience every single time they use it. That's really hard to get to. But that's ultimately what we try to get to, because that's the ultimate. Once you get a consumer to that point, you pretty much got them. So, our job is to figure out, how does our product or service fit into the consumer's life in a way that will make their life better, and then just tell them that in everything that we do. Now that seems rather simple, but it's not. It's not at all, because you have to have a deep understanding of that consumer's life. A lot of people ask, what do marketers do? You know, that's an interesting question, because if you walk up and you ask people, what does a marketer do? Most of them will just tell you that, well, you know what, they make the advertising. And that's true to a certain extent, but advertising is just a piece of marketing. You know, marketing typically sits at the center of a company, because the marketers are responsible for the profit and loss. The marketers are responsible for developing the strategic plan of how are we going to go to market with this. The marketers are responsible for the culture of the company. The marketers are responsible for the customer experience and the purchase moment. You know, what happens when somebody buys a product? What do we do then? Do we send an automated email saying we've got your order? When do we send automated emails that the product has been shipped with shipping instruction, it's been delivered? Marketing does all of those things. They create that customer journey and the customer follow-up to make sure that we have satisfied customers. They're in charge of innovation, because marketing is supposed to have their finger on the pulse of the consumer and the marketplace, and they're responsible for seeing what's out there. Is there something new that we should be developing a new product for? So innovation falls in the marketing camp, as well as brand stories and brand positioning. So there's a lot of stuff that a marketer actually does. Their biggest job is making sure that everything is singing from the same hymnal. And that's hard, because in big organizations or on global brands, you know, it's kind of like cats leaving the barn. They go everywhere. And if you don't have a good firm grip on the messaging and the delivery of the message, then it can get convoluted. We have to make sure that everything is singing, from events that we do, from live people, you know, our salespeople, from our packagings, from our website. All of those things have to be singing the same song and saying the same words. Branding is about beating up the competition, but it's not doing so in the store, because in the store that becomes a price war, and nobody wins in a price war. Lowering price is not what we want. We want to be able to command a premium price, and we want our consumers to be happy to pay it. Studies have shown that if a consumer loves your brand, if they're in a reflexive purchase state, they are willing to pay 20 to 25% more for your product than they are before they will start switching, looking for a brand to switch to. So we want to outbrain them. We don't want to beat them up on low price. We want to outbrain them by being smarter than them, figuring out how is our product different, better, and special, and have meaning to their life and making their life better. Because if we can do that, we're going to win every time. Branding is about differentiation. You know, here's a picture of a whole bunch of different types of cereal boxes. You know, if we look at Rice Krispies, well, Rice Krispies, what pops into your head with Rice Krispies? Well, it's probably Snap, Crackle, and Pop. Or, you know, the feel and the look of Rice Krispies. Might be Rice Krispie treats. Well, if I asked you to close your eyes and imagine a bowl of Rice Krispies right in front of you with a cup of milk that you spoon your spoon down into and put it in your mouth and take a bite, can you taste the Rice Krispies right now? Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. Because you know what they taste like. You know what the mouthfeel is, the light crunch of the Rice Krispies. Yet we don't have a bowl in front of us. But we know from experience. We know from experience And we trust Rice Krispies because we know every time we open up a box, even if you haven't opened up a box of Rice Krispies in 20 years, you know exactly what you're getting when you open the box. And they're consistent every single time. Let's look at the Cheerios box. Well, what pops into your head about Cheerios? Well, the little round oats, heart healthy, perhaps. The little honeybee with his swamp wand. What about Weetabix? What pops into your head when you see the box of Weetabix? Probably nothing, because you've never heard of it, right? There's a 100% guarantee that consumers aren't going to buy anything from you if they don't know what it is you're selling. Marketing is not a field of dreams. If you build it, they will come. If you put it in a box and put it on a shelf, they'll buy it. That's not the way it works. You've got to be able to tell people how this product or service is going to fit into their life in a way that makes their life better. And so if that's the role of marketing. That's why we do marketing, because you can't just put a box out there and expect anybody to buy it. Branding is about creating strong messaging that means something to people. You know, if you look at the Nike logo, well, what does the Nike logo mean to you? It means, great athletes. It means just do it. It means Michael Jordan. It means Serena Williams, Tiger Woods, Olympic athletes, premium top level athletes from around the world all use Nike products. Branding starts with a target audience. All products are not made for all people. Even water, the most ubiquitous product on the planet, the different brands have different target audiences. I doubt if many of you have a Fiji water sitting on your desk right now as you're watching this video. But, there's a market for people who buy Fiji water. There's a different type of market for people who buy Dasani. There's a different type of market for people who buy Aquafina. There's different brands for different people. And so we try to define our brand by the people that we think are most likely to want to purchase us. So let's take, for example, if we've got a product that we're targeting at teen males. And so in order to get inside of the teen male's head, in order to understand that teen male's life, we have to get inside of it and look at what other things are they doing in their world and how might we fit into that world. So what are they doing? Well, they love to play video games. They like to watch stupid videos on YouTube. They like to watch animes. They don't watch TV at all. But, they like clothes that are cool but not too cool. Just kind of a casual cool. They like drinking energy drinks. They love Doritos. They love, kind of cutting edge stuff. They like their computer technology. They like their cell phones. So if we understand their world, now we can understand how we might fit in there, or maybe we don't. So defining the target audience, creating what we call a consumer persona, is a really important first step in creating your brand. Branding is about being strategically creative. And when I say strategically creative, trying to figure out how our products or services are different, better, and special versus the competition. Those three words, different, better, special, need to be tattooed on your forehead by the time we leave here, because those are the most important things that we do. If we only remember those three words from this class, we will have been successful, because different, better, special defines how you are different in the marketplace and are more meaningful to the consumer. Once we've kind of done our research, we've decided who it is we're targeting, what it is we're trying to say to them, then we try to articulate that in what's called a brand positioning. And the brand positioning has to be relevant, honest, and inspiring. And so the brand positioning comes from looking at the marketplace and the competition, trying to figure out, where are they positioned? How can we position ourselves in a unique way here? How do we develop a unique selling proposition? And how are we going to communicate that to the consumer? We figure all of that out through using what we call a three-circle analysis. And a three-circle analysis is quite simple. You take three circles and make them interconnecting. And in one circle you put down, here's all the things the consumer wants. And in the second circle you put down, here's all the things that our brand does really well. And in the third you put in, what do your competitors do really well? And what we're looking for is that intersection between what the consumer wants and what we do well where our customers don't, where our competitors don't. So that's what we define and call a winning zone. The winning zone is where you win because you're offering things that the customer wants that your competitors aren't. And that then becomes the centerpiece of our brand positioning. Now, brand positioning has three elements. The first is a target audience, defining again who it is that most likely to purchase this product. The second is a benefit. What's the benefit that the consumer is going to get? How is it going to make their life better by using it? And that should be what you defined in the winning zone in your three-circle analysis. And then the reason why explains how you're able to do that. And we explain it in what we call kitchen logic, which means you explain it in clear and simple words so that anybody can understand it. So, here's an example. This is the best marketed product on the planet. Scrubbing bubbles. Tub, toilet, or tile troubles, get scrubbing bubbles. And no matter what type of product you buy, whether it is the spray can or the squirt, the drop-ins for your toilet, everything in that family of products is triggered by the little scrubbing bubble dude. He's the one who's washing your toilet. They've taken the crappiest job in the house cleaning your toilet and made it fun. Because you aren't doing it, the little scrubbing bubble dude's doing it. Well, we all know that the little scrubbing bubble dude doesn't exist, but it's much nicer to think about that as the point of differentiation than any other spray that's just a spray. So how does that come about is the question. Because that's marketing execution. That is what the brand team gave a brand positioning statement to the advertising agency. Then the advertising agency came up with that. So here's the strategy that the agency was given. A target audience of homemakers. The benefit, Dow bathroom products are the easy way to clean your tub, tile, and toilet. And the reason why, that's because only Dow bathroom products contain scrubbing bubbles that cut through the dirt and the grime clean to the shine. Notice how that strategy is articulated and illustrated in that ad. Symbiotic relationship. And that's exactly what we want. That's how strong brands are built, when you have something that triggers the person to think about that brand. So now let's talk about marketing. Marketing is the execution of the brand strategy. If you don't have a brand strategy, then you're just throwing stuff against the wall. So, but marketing, in today's world, is really driven through what we call digital marketing. But digital marketing is a term that means nothing. It's an empty term for anything that happens on the internet. So that could be an email that you send, that could be a digital ad that you place somewhere on a website, that could be your search engine optimization, that could be a blog that you write or a post on your Facebook feed. There's a million different ways that you can execute digital marketing. Traditional marketing is still relevant. We can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's still a place for radio, print, TV, newspapers, billboards, magazines for certain demographics, which is why we have to define the target audience, because once we define the target audience, then we know which places and what tools to use to get to them most effectively in our marketing. It's not traditional marketing versus digital marketing. It's about how do we blend using the two to be most effective. When we look at today's world and the options that a marketer has at their disposal to go to market, it's crazy. There's just so many different things that you can use, from YouTube to Pinterest to search engine optimization to blogs to content marketing to affiliate marketing, retargeting consumers, in addition to TV, radio, newspapers. There's so many things that you'd have to have an army of people to help execute it now. So, part of the challenge is figuring out, okay, so which of these tools are going to be the most effective for me? So let's talk about what you can do to fail at marketing, because sometimes just understanding how to not shoot yourself in the foot is the way to get to success. So if you want to fail, assume that they're interested. Almost every app built for Facebook has no use. They're heavy, immersive. They're not how people engage with others, and they fail. Think about Facebook. Why do you go to Facebook? You don't go to Facebook to be advertised to. You go to Facebook to engage with your friends, with your family, with things that you're interested in, with groups that you might be affiliated with. That's the purpose of Facebook. It's not to learn about the wonders of Samsung. So companies that do advertise on Facebook, you can be successful. But again, you have to understand that consumer and understand if your product or service can make their life better. And if you can, that's what you tell them. Classic example. I am a huge fan of the Los Angeles Dodgers. So when I look at my Facebook feed, if some new Dodger gear pops up, heck yes, I want to see that. But if they start feeding me fishing things, I have no interest in fishing whatsoever. So that's just a waste of time, effort, and money. And it makes me angry to see that kind of stuff popping up in my feed. So, the wonder of digital marketing is that, they built these ginormous databases on each of us, and they know what we like and what we don't like. So they can feed us ads that apply to our lives, for products and services that we are interested in. And, that's kind of creepy in one level, but it's really good in the fact that, they're being very targeted, and they're only showing me stuff that I'm interested in. 0.5% of people talk about brands on Facebook. In other words, nobody's going to Facebook and typing about brands. In a study of 200 brands, only one had a level of engagement over 2%, and that was Disney, because there are a lot of Disney fans out there. Most people don't know much about the brands they buy. Case in point, let's talk about Heinz ketchup. That's probably your favorite ketchup. Well, where's it from? Where's its headquartered? Where's it manufactured? What's in it? Are the tomatoes organically grown? Are they genetically modified? Are they grown in the United States? Are they imported from Mexico? What else is in there? Is it sugar? Is there vinegar? Is there salt? We don't know, and we don't care, because all we care about is that when we get a bottle of Heinz ketchup, every single time we open it up and pour it out, it's exactly the same product. It's not watery, it's thick and rich, and it tastes exactly the same every single time. Consistency. 50% of all knowledge about brands is held by just 20% of its buyers, because most of us know little or nothing about brands, and it doesn't matter because it's not that important. If we want to fail, assume that the customers are yours. 72% of Pepsi drinkers also drink Coca-Cola. Now, why in the world would somebody respond to a survey and say, my favorite soft drink is Pepsi, and then go drink a Coke? Well, there's reasons for that. Number one, they might have gone to McDonald's, and McDonald's doesn't have Pepsi, so they go, hey, I'll just have a Coke today. And so what's what we call duplication of purchase. And duplication of purchase is unavoidable, because availability a lot of times drives that. But it's also very predictable. And so, let's take a look at the toothpaste category, for example. People ask, what are your favorite brands? They responded, Colgate, Aquafresh, McLean's or Sensodyne. Then they were tracked over 12 months. What did they buy? And even though 49% of the buyers said that Colgate was their favorite product, at some point during the year, a vast majority of them bought a McLean's, an Aquafresh, or a Sensodyne. So why would you say again that Colgate's my favorite brand, yet go buy a Aquafresh? Well, there's an explanation for that as well, because if you're standing in the toothpaste aisle at Walmart, all of those brands are available. So it's not an availability issue, but it's probably a sale. When you walked in and you were expecting to buy your Colgate and it was $4.49 and the Aquafresh was on sale for $1.99, you went, you grab the Aquafresh, throw it in your cart and move on. Now, why do brands offer discounts and sales in stores? Well, it's very simple. Because they're trying to get you to brand switch. They want you to try their product, therefore they're willing to give you a discount to try it in the hopes that you'll like it and then switch to their brand. And it's a very effective tool sometimes. A lot of times it's just a one-time purchase, and in that case it's a waste. But, if you can get somebody, if you can give them $2 off and get them to try your brand and they like it, well, that was a very good $2 spent if they're going to keep buying your brand. The fantasy is that your brand and your consumers are in love. But the reality is that your consumers are just somebody else's consumers that occasionally buy you. If you want to fail, ask for devotion. This is the purchase profile of the shampoo brand Fructis. Average person goes through about 9 bottles of shampoo a year. And as you can see from the purchase frequency data, most Fructis buyers buy it 1, 2, maybe 3 times. Nobody buys it all 9 times that they buy during the year. Well, you could say, well, this is kind of a weird brand because it's, who wants their hair to smell like strawberries? But, and you could be true about that. So let's take a look at the number 1 selling brand in the category, which is Pantene. Same profile, it's just bigger numbers. Hardly anybody buys it 6, 7, 8, 9 times during the year. Again, because of sales. Sales are very effective in getting people to brand switch. Now, the fans. There's a very few people that will buy it consistently every single time. And we love those people. We love people that will tattoo our logos on their butts. But we're not going to make our sales volume off of them. We need lots and lots of people buying our products infrequently. Case in point, let's look at the coffee category, Nescafe. Nescafe has a 42% market share. Maxwell House has a 6% market share. Yet when you look at the number of purchases per buyer, they're almost identical, 2.3 and 1.9. The only difference between Nescafe and Maxwell House is that Nescafe just has 7 times more people buying it than Maxwell House does. So what does love have to do with any of this? Well, there's 2 ways that you can kind of go to market. You can either try to target your loyal consumers, or you can go after new consumers who aren't using your product. That's what we would call a penetration campaign. When you target your loyal users, you can get some bounce in your sales, but you're going to get much higher bounce if you target non-users. And let's just do the math. So let's assume that you go through, you use liquid detergent and you go through 1 bottle per month. If you're a loyal Tide user, we know that brand switching happens. So let's assume that maybe 9 of your 12 purchases were a Tide and 3 were something else. If I can get that person to become 100% loyal to Tide, my incremental volume is only 3 bottles a year. They're not going to buy 18 if they're only needing to use 12 during the year. However, if I can target somebody that's been buying Gain for the year and get them to switch to Tide, suddenly I have up to 9 to 12 incremental bottles that I could sell them. during the course of a year. So my opportunity is 4 times higher, 3 to 4 times higher with that new customer than it is with the loyal customer. So as a result of that, we spend 90 to 95% of our time, effort, and money trying to find new customers and induce new customers into our market. Your brand's health depends on lots of people who don't know you well, don't think of you much, and don't buy you often, if at all. If you want to fail, expect them to have to work at it. The number one reason why people interact with brands on social media sites is to get a discount. That's it. You now know the magic formula for having success in social media. Give them a discount. They're not there to learn about your brand. They're there to get a discount. Human relationships demand massive processing power. And many brands professed, we're trying to build a relationship with our customer. Well, that's a nice thing to say from the brand side. But does the customer want a relationship? I don't think so. Most of us use a product or a service in a very utilitarian type of way. We use it when we need it. When we don't, we put it on the shelf and we expect it to go away. I don't think you want your toothpaste sending you text messages at 10 o'clock every night saying, hey, brushed your teeth tonight? No, we don't want that. We don't want that at all. We want to use the product when we need that benefit, and we want to be able to put it away when we don't. You know, in categories where there's massive brain processing, wine. You've got wineries, you've got different types of grapes, you've got different types of years. Hugely complex purchase decision process. Yet with all of that complexity, the average person buying a bottle of wine makes that selection in less than a minute. If you go to the cereal aisle, it's 23 seconds. Now, consumers don't walk down the cereal aisle and go, oh, wow, there's new Rice Krispies, but they have strawberries. Oh, there's the Lucky Charms. They're magically delicious. People don't do that. They know what they're looking for. They say, oh, I'm looking for Cheerios. They spot the yellow boxes, and off they go. They grab, go. And that decision was made before they ever walked into the aisle. That's how most people buy. We try to buy reflexively because we don't want to be trying to make a decision on every single thing that we purchase, or our trips to the store would last forever. Heuristic. This is a really important word. Heuristic are mental shortcuts that help ease the cognitive load of making a purchase decision. So a heuristic element could be the Starbucks mermaid. It could be the golden arches. It could be the contour bottle of Coca-Cola. It could be the color of the yellow of the Cheerios box. All of these things are signals that help a consumer cut through the clutter, see what they want, and grab it and go. And that's the whole point of branding. If you want to fail, assume that you complete them. 77% of people say they don't have relationships with the brands. As well, they should not. Because brand relationships are nothing like human relationships. Much of what we make is not vital to our life, but it's trivial. You know, if we wake up tomorrow morning and the headline in the New York Times says Coca-Cola is dead, you know, some of us will have a little bit of a problem with that, and we'll run down to Sam's Club and we'll buy up as many cases as we can and store them out in the garage. But when that last can's gone and we've taken our last sip and we crumple that baby up and we go, boy, we had a good time, and you toss it into the recycling bin, you're just going to move on to Dr. Pepper. Nobody's going to have a funeral. Nobody's going to, you know, have a tombstone. Because when it disappears, it doesn't matter. Because it's just trivial to our lives. Because much of what we make is not vital. It's incidental. Incidental to playing with our kids, sharing a quiet moment on a park bench on a snowy day, walking our dogs in the rain, good old, awesome, awful, everyday life. Which is why we have to figure out how does our product or service fit into the life of the consumer as currently constructed? We can't be trying to shove things in that they aren't using. How are we going to fit those? How does our product make their life better? That's our task. That's our job. The challenge isn't that people aren't paying attention. They are. The problem is they don't care. They're indifferent. Indifference is the strongest force in the universe. Love and hate don't stand a chance against it. When somebody doesn't care, there is no breaking through. It's kind of like if you're trying to talk soccer to me. Goes right through. I don't care about soccer. I have no interest in soccer whatsoever. And if somebody starts to start up a conversation with me about soccer, it's going to last about 32 seconds. Baseball? You want to talk baseball? We can talk all day long because I love baseball. I hate the Padres and I love the Dodgers and I hate the Yankees. But that's okay because now I can engage. But when somebody doesn't care, that's the death knell. So what are we going to do in this class? Well, the first thing is we're going to change the way that you're looking at the world. You've been going through this life now looking at the world through the eyes of a consumer. We're going to change that perspective. We're going to flip the lens around and we're going to start looking at it through the eyes of a marketer. When you see an ad, you're going to start thinking, wait a minute, how's that selling men's underwear? I don't get it. And you might be right. Who knows? You're going to start paying attention when you go to the store. You're going to start being a stalker. Yeah, no, in a good way, not a bad way. When you're walking down a grocery store aisle and you see somebody else shopping, just stop for a moment. Pretend that you're looking at the aisle, but instead, kind of watch the consumer and how they're shopping. This lady, well, why is she kneeling down and looking at a multi-pack of Pringles? What might be going on in her life that would require her to buy that big amount of Pringles? Well, let's take a look at her cart. She's got a little tiny one. She's also got some snacks in the cart. She probably has some elementary age or junior high age kids as well that she's buying snack lunches for. So we can tell a lot by just paying attention. And so we want you to start paying attention as you're going through the aisle and just doing your everyday shopping. If you're in a store and you see a clerk wandering around restocking shelves, stop and have a conversation. They're a lot like the Maytag repairman. Nobody ever talks to them. But they're filled with information about what's going on in that store. They're the ones that are sticking the products and filling the products on the shelf every day. They know what sells. They know what doesn't sell. They know what's new. They know what's getting discontinued. Strike up a conversation. You'll find some really interesting insights just by talking to the store clerks. The most important thing in here, though, is we want to have fun. Marketing is the most fun of all business disciplines. You get to be creative. You get to try things out. You're not just sitting in an office counting beans. You're out there. You're engaged with the consumer. You're watching your product fly off the shelf. It's a lot of fun. And so, let me tell you a little bit about me. I'm not your typical professor. I was born in Southern California. I grew up in the San Bernardino and Long Beach areas in my youth, and about the age of 10, we moved to Utah, to Orem, Utah. And my mom, she had a little drapery store that she ran. My dad was an electrician. I have 3 little brothers, and my biggest claim to fame was between the sophomore and junior year of high school. I got 10 of my friends together, 9 of my friends together, and we all played a basketball marathon game for 45 consecutive hours to get into the Guinness Book of World Records. It was wild. I don't recommend anybody doing that, but back in those days, Utah wasn't nearly as big as it is, so we were kind of like the lead story on the 10 o'clock news every night, and we had these cameras set up, and it was a big deal. And so when it gets over with, just about every restaurant in Utah County invited us to come in for a free meal. The movie theaters all gave us free passes, and so we went to a movie and had a dinner almost every night for the next 6 weeks leading up to the beginning of school. So that was kind of cool. I did my undergraduate at BYU. I majored in political science. And I couldn't have told you where the business school was. Political science and communication, with the intent that I was going to go to law school. And as fate would have it, about a month after I graduate, I get called on jury duty. And I end up in this jury for a week on a case that was an attorney malpractice suit. And after sitting through that for a week, I suddenly discovered that being a real lawyer isn't anything like being on Law and Order. And it was the most boring, monotonous thing that I'd ever sat through in my life. And I was like, wait a minute, that's not what I want to do. Not a good time to discover that, by the way, after you graduated. And not a good conversation with your dad either when it's what are you going to do now? Well, I want to go work at sports. Wait, what? Well, I had put myself through school working at a Kmart store. And turns out that had a lot of value to my life because I learned what happens at retail. What happens when a new product comes in? And how does it displace some old product? What happens when you put a product on an end cap where it's by a high traffic area and how much more you sell? What happens when you put it on sale and put it on a high traffic area? Now, I learned all of those little tricks of retail hands-on. And now that I moved into consumer product marketing, it was very valuable. But when I decided I was going to make the shift into the sports world, the Jazz had moved to town a couple of years before. So I drove up to Salt Lake, just walked into the office and said I want a job. And I managed to get a little part-time job, so I kept my job at Kmart, and I would go up on game nights and I would help execute all the marketing that was going on in the arena, even though I didn't really know what that was. But I would hang up signs in the arena for sponsors. I would run the people out on the floor for their little games and stuff. I would coordinate, what was going on during timeouts. And I got to sit on the front row, and I got a free meal and $25, and that was good enough for me. And I did that for 7 seasons, actually. Between one of them, I got approached by a guy down in the corner one night who came down and introduced himself and said he just bought the AAA baseball team in Salt Lake and asked if I would be interested in coming to work for him on the baseball team. And I love baseball, so I moved over there. It was the Salt Lake Gulls baseball team, which is now called the Bees, still the Angels affiliate. And when the season was over with, we'd had a very successful season, and I get a call from the California Angels down in Anaheim, and they said we have an opening for a general manager in our minor league system, and you've been recommended to us. And so, next day I'm in the car driving to Anaheim, and I talked myself into a job as a general manager, and I had no idea what I was walking into. I was complete imposter syndrome. I had somehow talked myself into this job, and now I'm running a baseball team, and every day I was just making it up as I went. And so, during that summer, I was talking to some of my friends, and there were a couple of them were in the MBA program at BYU, and they said, you really ought to come back and learn some of this stuff that you didn't ever learn in undergrad, because the stuff that you're struggling with is the stuff that you've learned how to do in an MBA program. So I quit, went back to BYU again, joined the MBA program, and in that first year of classes, they make you go through all the acumens, and I walked into the marketing class and the light came on, and I went, aha, this is what I want to do. And so, I really threw myself into the marketing courses, and that led to an opportunity to get recruited by Procter & Gamble. They came to the campus to recruit. They had not hired anyone in 17 years, but I was the first recruit to go to Procter & Gamble, and I suddenly find myself in Cincinnati working with a whole bunch of Ivy Leaguers, and that's another story for another day. But I worked at P&G for about 6 years. Then I moved to the Walt Disney Company, and I was there doing home video marketing, and it was a really good time to be there. My reign started with Beauty and the Beast, and it ended with The Lion King, and we had a couple of movies in the middle called Aladdin and The Nightmare Before Christmas that were also very popular. Never thought I was going to leave Disney, but I got recruited to the Coca-Cola Company to go out there. It was a huge job bump to be the global director of Olympic marketing for the Coca-Cola Company, particularly focused on the 1996 Summer Games that were going to be held in Atlanta. the stars were never going to align like this again with the largest sponsor of the Olympics in their hometown, Summer Games in the United States. And so I left, went to Atlanta, worked on the Olympics, spent $450 million, which was kind of fun, and we'll talk about some of those stories as we go through as well. When the games were over with, they wanted me to move to Japan. I didn't really want to do that. So I had met a guy that worked over at Turner Broadcasting, who had since moved up to the Washington, D.C. area, and he recruited me up to be the chief marketing officer for a company called Feld Entertainment, which is the largest live entertainment company in the world at the time. They had the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus, the Disney on Ice shows, Siegfried and Roy down in Las Vegas, and a couple other shows in Vegas, some European tours. And so I went there as their chief marketing officer, did that for like 9 months and just hated it. And then decided, I'm going to sit down and write a book. So I sat down to write my first book, The Marketing Game. And Special Olympics, I gotten to know them really well while I was at Coke. They were one of the entities that I managed. And they asked if I would come over and help them set up a corporate development department to raise some sponsorship dollars for their great cause. And so I worked for a couple of years kind of on a consulting basis with Special Olympics to help them get themselves all set up as a global sponsorship entity. Then I moved up to the New York area and went to work for NBC and World Wrestling Federation. They had a partnership to launch what was called the XFL Football League, which was its first iteration. It's now going on to its third iteration this next spring. But that was wild, and I'll talk about that again a little later. But for its one glorious season of existence, I was up in New York working with NBC, and that was kind of fun. So when the XFL imploded, I moved back to Utah. I had 2 young kids at the time, and so my wife and I opened up a preschool down in Linden, Utah, and we built that into the largest preschool in Utah County. Same time I started teaching. That was I kind of moved into the teaching. I started at University of Utah, then went down to BYU, and then after a few years of that, the Jazz called back and said, hey, would you come back and be the chief marketing officer for all of our sports and entertainment properties, which was the Jazz basketball team, the Bees baseball team, K-Jazz TV, the arena, the motorsports park out in Tooele, fan stores. So I went back and did that for about 6 years, and then in 2011 I had the opportunity to come to Utah State, and I've been full-time faculty since then. I've written 3 books. The first one was The Marketing Game, the second was The Smart Marketer's Toolbox, third was Marketing in the Digital Age, and we are now working off of my 4th book, which just came out a little while back, Product and Brand Management in the Digital Age. So I'm a little bit of a different cat than most of the professors that you're used to working with. I did not come up through academia. I'm not a researcher. I'm a practitioner. And so, over the course of the class, I'm going to share a lot of stories with you about how this, the theories connect to real life, so you can see how they are implemented. And our task in this class is, by the end of the course, we're going to have learned all the pieces that go into making a marketing plan, and we're going to put together a marketing plan for a business that you choose to do that for. So that's going to be kind of fun. So, we're about ready to tear into it. It's going to be coming at you like a fire hose. So get ready, buckle up. It's going to be a lot of fun.